was living in Virginia with my family. The family was in a house that my grandfather had built while my father was in World War II in Europe. And this is very unusual because this was in the war, and supplies were not allowed for most people to do anything during the war. And my grandfather was able to get material to build a house. That was very unusual. So when my father came back home from the war, my grandfather had a farm, and on that farm there was a lot that he built a house for my parents. And my parents moved into that house when he got back. And I was born a year later, 1946, a year after my father returned. Grew up in that house. There was a piano in the house that had been given to someone, from somebody. I don't remember where it came from. But my oldest sister, whose husband is Emery Smith, who was my mentor, played that piano as a child. And I would sit on her lap when she would practice. And that was my first remembrance of the piano and the patterns and the keys, and her telling me to play different things on the keyboard. That was my first recollection of playing music. And then when I became 7 years old, the people and the Black folks in the community, the preacher in the church that I went to, or my family went to, the Sunday school teacher, and who headed up the Sunday school in that church, and the woman who taught piano Black woman who taught piano in the community, who was also the first grade teacher, who had been my first grade teacher. They came to my father's house on a Saturday morning, knocked on the door. My mother took them in the kitchen, okay? And they had come because they were looking for someone who was young to play piano and was going to be in the community for a while, to be the musician in the church and in the school. And my mother asked me to come downstairs, and I was afraid because in the Black community back then, the teacher and the preacher, they were the highest in our community. There were no lawyers and doctors, the preacher and the teachers. And they asked my mother, my mother asked me, did I want to play piano? And I said, yes, because I'm going to have to say yes, because the people are there wanting me. So I said, yes, ma'am. And she said, go back upstairs. And the next week I started studying piano with the first grade teacher, piano teacher. That was in the Sunday school. I was playing, that was in September 1954, 55. So, no, it wasn't. It was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. In 1954, I started piano lessons. 1950, that was September. And then the Easter, that following year, I was playing in the church. Because the teacher taught me just what I needed to know to play the Easter service. And they paid me $8. I was 8 years old, and they were paying me $8. That was more than my big brothers were making, working every day all week. So I said, this is a good racket. So I went to church, Sunday school every week. And then I was playing in the church during the week for programs of like the Missionary Society and the Usher Board. And then other churches hired me to play. And I played in the schools, in the high school. Then I was in the band in 7th grade. And all through high school, I played in the band. And then went off to Catholic University of America when I was graduated from high school, and studied music, and then left there after 3 years and went to the Berklee School of Music for a semester. And then I was in Boston, stayed there for 10 years, and then moved to New York. Blues was some of the first music I heard, other than the music in the church. I mean, if anyone had a guitar or piano, they either sang gospel or blues. If you heard them play or sing, that's what from the beginning of my life, that was the music that we would prefer to listen to at night on the radio. So blues was the music, our music. Gospel and blues was our music. Jazz, you would hear because my parents grew up on that, and they had an old RCA Victrola, that with the 78 records. and you could hear the old the beginnings of R&B, but jazz big bands from the 40s on those recordings, you know. And we wore them out. Moved to New York in 1973 because the band I was in with David S Ware and Mark Edwards, we were asked to come to New York in, I think it was January 73 or so, to open at the Village Vanguard for Sonny Rollins. So the band opened for him, and after we did that, we knew that we weren't going to stay in Boston. So that June, we moved to New York because we realized there was there was a window of opportunity that we could walk through. It was the possibilities then in New York for us were open. David S Ware had met Sonny, and Sonny was mentoring him. You know, he'd met Sonny, I guess, when he was 17, 18 years old, in probably the 5 spot or the Vanguard, I don't remember. But they became friends, and Sonny mentored him. I heard David in a practice room in Berklee School of Music when the first week I was there, which is in 1967, September 1967. The first few days I heard a horn down in the practice room, and I searched out the sound, and I introduced myself, and we became friends, and we recorded maybe, I think, the following year together for a film that I was working on, and then, but we didn't play regularly until he joined a band that I was writing music for in Boston. He joined that band, so that was 1969. So we started playing regularly, and when that band broke up, we formed the band APARTHEID, which is a trio with him, Mark Edwards, and myself. Mark Edwards is the drummer. Well, the band with that he joined that I was writing music for was really it was a band called the Rosewater Foundation. That Kurt Vonnegut wrote a book called God Bless Mr. Rosewater, and we called the band Rosewater Foundation. And that band was the music was centered around the conga of Juma Santos. Juma was a percussionist, played with Miles, and played with everybody. And the band was centered around him. And our first job we ever had, Juma came in doing the sound check. He said, I'm going with Miles. And we said, what do you mean you're going with Miles? We've got a gig tonight. You can't go with Miles. so all the music was built around conga, but then when he left, it felt like a big hole, but it was actually very freeing for us. I was playing organ, meaning I had to play, bass pedals, and 2 keyboards. And I never improvised in that band because I was so busy with the 2 keyboards and the pedals, I didn't feel I had, I could do it now, but I couldn't do it then. And then that was without David. And then later on, I said, we could really have a fuller band with 3 horns. There was alto, trumpet, and now tenor, organ, and drums. And then whenever June was off the road, he would join us and we would play. So that band was not, it was like a Latin jazz band, a fusion Latin jazz band, and when that band broke up, and then David S Ware and I, we decided we wanted to put a free band together. We wanted to play free, and I was going to play organ, I was going to play piano. And then he was living with me in Boston. I said, what about a drummer? He says, well, Mark Edwards. I said, well, Mark really can't play. I mean, he was just beginning to play trap set because he came from Harlem and he played in marching bands, snare. He never played trap set. He was just learning. He was studying with Alan Dawson in Boston. He really couldn't play. But I sat with him every day in the studio, and we just played every day. And then when David got off from driving his cab, we'd all play. And after about 2 years of playing in Boston, we knew that's enough. We were leaving here because there was no one who could keep up with what we were doing. When you're rehearsing every day, twice a day, in the morning and then in the evenings, twice a day, because most bands don't have that kind of discipline. But all 3 of us had a vision of who we were and what our place was going to be inside the music. Because I think part of it is David knowing Sonny, and Sonny was projecting into David. David, you're one of the cats. And we just believed in David's vision, and we said, we're going to go with him. Because someone has, I don't really believe in collectives, collective with no leader. You know, there's always going to be a leader, someone who has a stronger vision than the rest. And David had a stronger vision, you know, which I'm, you know, after many, many years, just understanding. And I'm 70, almost 72, just understanding. Well, we were, I won't call it second stringers, but we were the next generation of it, I think. I mean, you know, I'd heard Mingus when I was 12, and I knew that was it. And Mingus was not Charlie Parker. It wasn't Ahmad Jamal. It wasn't Horace Silver. It was very different thinking, very different. And I knew that was the way. When I heard Mingus and those people who were in, you know, Jackie Byard and Eric Dolphy, and I heard they were a very different crowd, you know. You know, later on I got to hear, you know, Albert Ayler but I think of Albert and you know and Ornette and them. They were the beat. They were the Mingus was really, I think, really the beginning of it. That's how I heard it. I mean, he was the bridge between what was in the past and what was going to be the future, you know. And then when you heard Miles was, because I heard all these people live, and they were all stretching, pushing it. You know, he had these young guys who really wanted to play free. You know, he wanted to play. I'm not sure Ron Carter was that way, but I knew you could hear in Freddie, in Herbie Hancock's playing, and in Tony Williams wanted to play free. You could hear that. He was playing free, you know. And Miles was pushing that away also. Because I would hear them come in on Tuesday night, say in the Bohemian Caverns in Washington, because I would hear them every night, you know, all the sets. And they would be playing the tunes, on Tuesday, but by Friday, they didn't play the head. They were playing. They were gone beyond that, you know. So I saw us as, you know, the next generation of that music, you know. You know, the first generation showed us, well, you know, Ornette was blues. So for me, that was great, you know. When I heard Ornette really before I heard Charlie Parker. I had to go back and listen to Charlie Parker, and I did not understand bebop at all. It was just too complicated. Ornette didn't feel complicated at all. It was swinging and bluesy. You know, it wasn't intellect. It was what I felt growing up and hearing Muddy Waters and all those blues singers. You know, not like Muddy Waters, but more like the Mississippi Delta guys playing alone, because the time would change. You know, they'd slow down, they'd speed up, because they're playing by themselves. You know, when you put people together, then there has to be a little more organization. You know, but Ornette and them, they were free. They were very free in how they played. I came to New York 3 different times. I came to New York in 1966 when I was still in university. And I got a job with the Catholic Archdiocese here in the summer of 1966. And I lived 2 buildings down with a cellist named Ronald Lipscomb, who was at the Manhattan School of Music. And doing an orientation of this organization that the Archdiocese put together called Summer in the City, okay, I was standing in back of this tall black man. And he turned around, looked at me, he says, because I had a backpack and I was kind of shaggy. He says, "Where are you living?" I said, "Well, I'm sleeping in Central Park." He said, No, you can't do that, because Central Park at that time was a haven for drug addicts, and it was horrible. It wasn't a safe place to be. He said, and he doesn't know me. He just looked at me and says, No. I'm gonna be going away in a month. And no, he says, my roommate is moving out on Tuesday, and you can come live with me. I said, fine. And then I moved over here. That was the first time I came to New York, and then I came back in 73 and founded a building on Canal Street and moved in all musicians. Okay, and it was during the Loft days, and we performed there, we lived there, we rehearsed there, and recorded there. Okay, then I came back in 1985. This has been here now for 32 years. I have in the past been very political. I mean, an activist, political. Like in the street or in city hall basements, you're doing research to find out who the bad guys are, who the slumlords are, doing the records, putting them in computers, databases, so that we can find out who do we attack, okay? Or whether during the Vietnam War, I said no. And then when I went before my draft board, I said, I'm a conscientious objector. I will not fight in your war. And they tried to put me into, have me work for 3 years in a mental hospital, and one that I knew was a horrible, horrendous place. And I refused that. And they said, if you don't, we'll lock you up and put you in jail. So I've been political, but inside the music, as Black people in America, you're affected by what comes to you. So you may not consciously do things in performance that you think is reflective of your condition, and it comes out that way. David said he was never angry when he played. Some people would say music is angry. No, he would say, no, I'm not angry. It's just an intensity that's about life. Life is intense, and he's being a sensitive and someone who would spend hours and hours doing meditation. He had understanding about the intensity of life, and that you express it in an intense way. Other people, you understand, just living in the world in many cultures dulls you. Living in, say, the capitalist society we live in and going to work every day dulls you. So oftentimes people come out, they want to feel that sense of life, and we give them that sense. At the end of it was always that way with blues players. People would work all week doing shit they didn't want to do, and then they'd come out and the blues would release them. And that's nothing more than what we were doing. It was, you say high professional level. It was just us doing what we felt we had to do. It was an expression of our lives, of life generally. Not necessarily that this is a role that I'm taking politically in the movement. I was always part of the movement. I think that in my teaching, I'm from apartheid America. Black schools until my last year in high school. Then we integrated, okay? But all during that time, you got the sense from teachers that Black teachers, they were a part of the movement, because most of them, if not all of them that I was taught by in elementary and high school had gone to Black traditionally black African-American universities and colleges. And in those institutions, they were taught, you have a duty to go out to raise the race. You know, that was how these organizations, institutions began after the Civil War. You know, we have to raise the race. Whether it was George Washington Carver or Booker T. Washington, whoever these people were, or Du Bois, we have to raise the race. So when I had the best, let me tell you, my teachers in elementary school and high school, these are black teachers, were the best I've ever had. They were the cream of intelligentsia in African American culture. They were the best. They didn't let you quit. You know, it was their job to keep you there, keep you interested and learn. When I was 13 and Sputnik, the Russians had put up Sputnik. You know, these teachers in the high school where I was got together, the science and math teachers, and they said, this is an opportunity because science is not going to have a color. You know, America wants to beat the Russians. We be better. We have to be better. We will be scientists. We will be the engineers. We will be the physicists. We will get the gigs. We will raise the level of our people. Okay, and that's something that happened. They took the cream of the crop in this high school, Douglas High School in Virginia, and they put us in a room. There were about 30 of us. I mean, there were like 350 kids in the school. They took about 30 of us and put us in the room. All the grades, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grades, put us in a room. They said, you have to learn as much science and mathematics as you can learn. Okay? And we were excused from all of our other classes. We had to do the work. But our mission was to study math and science and be the best. You know, and we didn't study the books that the other kids were studying. We were studying the math and physics and biology books of the universities. Okay, those are the books that we studied. And then we went out and competed in science fairs all over the state, you know. So when it comes to music, so here was a time, high school, where I had to make a decision about what it was that was going to be my future. Because you've asked about the music stuff. Was it going to be, for me, science, which I still love today. And I read math and science every day. I have a great interest in it. When I was 12 years old, I ended up with an 8-foot telescope in my backyard, looking up at the stars every day and mapping the moon. In fact, I just looked at a tune that I wrote last year called Tycho, which is one of the big bright crater on the moon. You know, so I still have that thinking about science and that during that time. I had to make a decision about whether it was going to be music or science. Okay, because they were both, you know. In high school, my music teacher said to me, I don't have a tuba player. I need a tuba player, you know, because the tuba player, sousaphone player, is playing football. We need a tuba player. And he went to my teachers in the high school. He said, he's going to be for the next 2 weeks, he's going to be in the practice room learning tuba. In 2 weeks, I learned all the tuba parts so I could be in a marching band. But I was always pulled between math and science. Okay, until my mother died. My mother died when I was 15 years old. And I had to decide when I was, and I became very depressed. And then when I was a senior in high school, people said, where are you going to college next year? This is many of the black students had integrated to local white high school. And some of the white students said, well, where are you going to school? I said, I don't know. They said, aren't you going to college? I said, yes. They said, how do you know you're going to college? I said, because my mother told me. She was dead. And I said, I'm going to college. And then during that questioning period, right, that particular day, I said, what is going to be my future? Is it going to be math and science? Because I didn't have the same interest. And more importantly, it didn't give me the joy and the healing that music gave me. Because when I was depressed after my mother's passing, it was music. I would go in the back room and I'd play piano and write tunes and listen to Monk and MONKISH and Earl Garner. I'd just listen to these players, you know. And I said, that's what I'm going to do. So that's when music was always part of my life, but that's when I knew the math and science was not going to be it. Music was going to be it.